The real estate agent looked at me like I was trespassing. She said, "Why are you here? The new owners take possession tomorrow." I was holding my grandfather's house key, the house he left me, the one that was supposed to be mine. I'm Sophia. I'm 29 years old. I teach second grade at Lincoln Elementary School, and I make $47,000 a year. It's not a lot, but it's steady. I rent a small apartment across town. I've been on my own since college. I'm independent. I take care of myself. But my grandfather took care of me first. My parents divorced when I was 8. It was ugly. My mom remarried within a year. My dad remarried 6 months after that. They both started new families, new kids, new lives, and I became optional. My grandfather noticed. He's my mom's dad. He saw what was happening and he stepped in. He started picking me up every Friday after school. I'd spend weekends at his house. Every summer I lived with him. He became the parent my actual parent stopped being. My brother is 3 years older than me. His name is Derek. He stayed with our parents. He got along with the new families better than I did. Or maybe he just didn't need an escape like I needed one. I think he resented me for it. For having Grandpa's attention. For being the one Grandpa chose. 6 months ago, Grandpa passed away. Heart attack. He was 74. The funeral was packed. Everyone showed up. My parents, Derek, aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone acted like they'd been close to him. But I was the one who visited him every week. I was the one who called him every Sunday. I was the one who knew his favorite coffee and the way he liked his eggs and the stories he told about building his house with his own hands in 1983. The will reading happened 2 weeks after the funeral. Grandpa left me his house. The whole thing. Paid off, 3 bedrooms, big backyard, the place where I spent every good memory of my childhood. He didn't leave Derek anything from the estate. There wasn't much else. Some savings, a car. But the house was mine. Derek seemed okay with it at the time. He hugged me. He said, "Grandpa loved you. You deserve it." I believed him. Subscribe if you've ever had to choose between family and yourself. I need to know I'm not the only one who's been here. When I was 8 years old, I realized my parents weren't coming back for me. Not really. It was a Saturday. My mom was supposed to pick me up from Grandpa's house at noon. She was 2 hours late. Then 3. Grandpa kept calling her. No answer. Finally, at 4 in the afternoon, she texted, "Can't make it today. Something came up with the kids." The kids, my half-siblings, the ones who mattered more. Grandpa looked at me. He didn't say anything. He just made me hot chocolate and turned on a movie. He let me stay the whole weekend, and the next weekend, and the one after that. That's how it started. Me living part-time with Grandpa. Me realizing he was the only one who showed up. Derek stayed with our parents. He fit in better with the chaos. He didn't need Grandpa like I did. And I think that made him angry. He'd make comments sometimes, little digs. Must be nice being Grandpa's favorite, or guess some of us have to earn attention. But Grandpa didn't care. He taught me woodworking in his garage. He showed me how to sand and stain and build things with my hands. He paid for my college when my parents said they couldn't afford it. He was at every single one of my school events, every concert, every graduation, every moment that mattered. My parents showed up maybe half the time, and when they did, they were distracted, talking about their other kids, checking their phones, leaving early. Grandpa stayed until the end, every single time. I thought things would change when I grew up. I thought maybe my parents would see me as an adult and want a relationship. I thought maybe Derek and I could be close. 2 months ago, I got tenure at Lincoln Elementary. It's a huge deal. It means job security. It means I'm valued. It means I made it. I called my mom to tell her. She said, "That's nice, honey. Listen, I have to go. Derek's wife just had the baby and I'm headed to the hospital." I didn't even know Derek's wife was pregnant. I spent those 2 months cleaning out Grandpa's house, going through his things, packing up what I wanted to keep, donating the rest. I was planning to move in next month. I'd already given notice at my apartment. The house was perfect. It needed some work, but it was mine. I could afford the property taxes and utilities on my teacher's salary. I could finally have a home, a real one. Derek called me 3 weeks ago. He said he wanted to help. He said the paperwork for transferring the property was complicated, and he knew a guy who could handle it. He said, "Let me take care of it for you. You've got enough on your plate with work." I thought he was being kind. I thought he was finally being the brother I'd always wanted. I gave him access to Grandpa's documents. I signed a few things he said were standard transfer forms. I trusted him. I'm an idiot. Then everything changed. I drove to Grandpa's house last Saturday morning. I had the day off. I wanted to finish packing the garage. I pulled into the driveway at 9 a.m. I was wearing old jeans and a sweatshirt. I had my hair tied back. I was ready to work. There was a woman standing on the front porch, professional, blazer, clipboard. She looked surprised to see me. I got out of the car. I said, "Can I help you?" She said, "I'm Karen West. I'm the listing agent. Are you the cleaning service?" I stared at her. I said, "What? No, I'm the owner. This is my house." She looked confused. She checked her clipboard. She said, "The sale closed 3 weeks ago. The new owners take possession tomorrow. You shouldn't be here." The ground shifted under my feet. I couldn't breathe. I said, "What are you talking about? This house wasn't for sale." She showed me the paperwork. Sale price, $340,000. Seller, Derek Matthews, my brother. My hands started shaking. I said, "He can't sell this house. It's not his. It was left to me." She said, "According to the documents, he had power of attorney. He said you were unable to manage the property due to, emotional distress following your grandfather's death." I felt like I was going to throw up. I said, "That's not true. I never gave him power of attorney." She looked uncomfortable. She said, "You'll need to take that up with your attorney. I'm just the agent. The sale is final." I called Derek. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. He answered on the third ring. He said, "Hey, what's up?" I said, "What did you do?" There was a pause. Then he said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "The house, Derek. Grandpa's house. You sold it." Another pause. Longer this time. Then he said, "We needed the money." I felt my chest tighten. I said, "We? There is no we. That house was mine." He said, "Grandpa should have left it to both of us. It wasn't fair. I fixed it." I said, "You stole from me. You forged documents. You committed fraud." He laughed. Actually laughed. He said, "Good luck proving that. The sale's done. The money's gone. Just let it go, Sophia." He hung up. I stood there in Grandpa's driveway holding my phone. The real estate agent was watching me. She looked sorry for me, pitying. I got in my car. I drove home. I sat on my couch and tried to process what had just happened. My brother had stolen my inheritance. He'd forged legal documents. He'd sold my house, the house Grandpa built, the house Grandpa left me, and he'd done it while pretending to help me. But what I discovered next changed everything. I called my mom. I was crying so hard I could barely speak. I said, "Derek sold Grandpa's house. He forged documents and stole it from me." She sighed. She actually sighed. She said, "Sophia, you need to calm down. Your brother needed that money more than you needed that old house. You have a job. You have an apartment. He has a family to support." I said, "He stole from me. Don't you care?" She said, "You're being dramatic. Grandpa should have split things evenly in the first place. Derek just corrected an unfair situation." I said, "It wasn't unfair. Grandpa left me the house because I was there for him. Where was Derek? Where were you?" She got defensive. She said, "We all loved your grandfather. Just because you monopolized his time doesn't mean you deserved everything." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I said, "I didn't monopolize his time. You abandoned me and he picked up the pieces." She said, "I'm not having this conversation. You need to let this go. Don't tear this family apart over money." She hung up. I called my dad. It went to voicemail. I left a message. He never called back. I texted my aunt, my uncle, 2 cousins who'd been at the funeral. No one responded. 3 days later, my cousin Lauren finally called. She said, "I heard about the house situation. I said, Derek stole it from me. She said, that's not what he told us. He said you two agreed to split the inheritance, but then you changed your mind and tried to cut him out. I felt sick. I said, that's a lie. I never agreed to anything. She said, I don't know, Sophia. Derek said you've been really controlling about Grandpa's stuff. He said you wouldn't let him have anything. I realized what was happening. Derek had been telling everyone his version first. He'd been building a narrative where I was the villain. Maybe this wasn't an accident. Maybe this was just who they are. I started digging. I needed to know what Derek had done with the money. I found his girlfriend's Instagram. She'd posted a photo 2 weeks earlier, a brand new Tesla, white, parked in front of a luxury hotel. The caption, living our best life. The location tag, Las Vegas. I kept looking. I found posts from a trip to Paris, first-class flights, 5-star hotels, designer shopping bags. I looked up property records. Derek had put a down payment on a condo downtown, 2 bedrooms, high-rise building. The down payment alone was $60,000. I did the math. The Tesla was at least $85,000. The condo down payment was $60,000. The Europe trip looked like it cost at least $20,000. That was $165,000 in 5 weeks. He'd spent half the money already. And based on what I was seeing, he'd spent the rest too. On gambling, on luxury, on things that had nothing to do with supporting his family. I called him again. I said, "Where's the money, Derek?" He said, "What money?" I said, "The $340,000 from the house." He said, "That's none of your business." I said, "You bought a Tesla. You went to Europe. You bought a condo. You spent everything." He said, "I earned it." I said, "You stole it." He said, "Prove it." Then he hung up again. I sat there staring at my phone. My hands weren't shaking anymore. I wasn't crying. I was just cold, angry, determined. I opened my laptop. I started taking screenshots. Every Instagram post, every property record, every piece of evidence I could find. I wasn't just hurt, I was robbed. 2 days later, my cousin called again. This time it was my cousin Brad. He said, "I need to ask you something." I said, "What?" He said, "Did you really try to keep Derek out of Grandpa's will?" I closed my eyes. I said, "No, Grandpa made his own decisions. He left me the house because I was there for him." Brad said, "That's not what Derek said. He said you manipulated Grandpa when he was sick. He said you turned Grandpa against the rest of the family." I felt my chest tighten. I said, "That's a lie. Grandpa was sharp until the day he died. He knew exactly what he was doing." Brad said, "I don't know who to believe, Sophia, but Derek's wife is really upset. She's saying you're tearing the family apart." I said, "I'm not the one who committed fraud." Brad didn't respond. Then he said, "Maybe you should just let it go. It's not worth fighting over." I said, "It's worth fighting for." He hung up. I checked my phone. 3 family members had blocked me on social media. My aunt had unfriended me. My uncle had stopped following me. Derek was winning. He was turning everyone against me, and they were believing him. I got a text from Derek's wife, Amanda. It said, "You're a selfish, manipulative person. You're tearing this family apart because you can't handle not getting everything you want. Leave us alone or I'll get a restraining order." I read it 3 times. Then I blocked her number. I sat on my couch. I felt exhausted, defeated, alone. But then I remembered something. I was done. Completely done. What they didn't know was I'd already started preparing. 3 days after Grandpa died, I'd gone to his house to start sorting through his things. I'd found a box in his closet. Inside were 3 letters, addressed to me. The first one was dated 2 years before he died. It said, "Sophia, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I want you to know the house is yours. Not because I love you more than Derek, but because you were there. You showed up. You cared. Derek has his own life, his own path. But you and I built something together in that house. It's yours. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." The second letter was dated 1 year before he died. It said, "I know there might be conflict after I'm gone. Your brother might be upset. Your parents might have opinions. Don't listen to them. The house is yours. I'm leaving it to you because you're the one who'll appreciate it. You're the one who'll take care of it. Trust yourself." The third letter was dated 3 months before he died. It said, "I love you, kiddo. You saved me as much as I saved you. The house is my way of saying thank you. Keep building things. Keep showing up. You're going to be just fine." I'd cried when I first read those letters. Now they were my evidence. I also had the original will. Grandpa's lawyer, Mr. Harrison, had given me a copy at the reading. I'd kept it in a safe deposit box at my bank. And I had something else, text messages from Derek. The ones where he offered to help with paperwork. The ones where he said he knew a guy who could handle the property transfer. I'd forwarded them all to my email, just in case. I called Mr. Harrison. I told him what had happened. There was a long silence. Then he said, "That's fraud. That's forgery. That's theft." I said, "Can we prove it?" He said, "We can try. Do you have the original will?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Do you have any documentation of the power of attorney Derek supposedly had?" I said, "No, because I never gave him one." Mr. Harrison said, "Then we have a case. I'll make some calls. We need to move fast." I also called an estate attorney named Lisa Martinez. She reviewed everything. She said, "This is criminal fraud. You need to file a police report immediately. You also need to file a civil suit to try to recover the money." I said, "He's already spent most of it." She said, "Then we'll go after whatever assets he has. The car, the condo. We'll make him pay." I took a breath. I said, "Okay, let's do it." While I was building my case, Derek was getting more aggressive. He sent me a text. "Drop this, Sophia. You're embarrassing yourself. If you keep pushing, I'll tell everyone you abused Grandpa. I'll say you isolated him from the family. I'll ruin you." I didn't respond. I just forwarded the text to my lawyer. My mom called. She said, "Derek told me you're threatening to sue him. You need to stop this. He's family." I said, "He stole from me." She said, "He needed that money. You're being selfish." I said, "I'm being robbed." She said, "If you go through with this, you're choosing to destroy this family. That's on you." I said, "No, it's on him, and on you for defending him." She hung up. My dad finally called back. He said, "I don't want to be involved in this. You and Derek need to work it out yourselves." I said, "He committed a crime. This isn't a sibling squabble." He said, "I'm staying out of it." Then he hung up too. But I wasn't alone. Mr. Harrison was furious. He said, "Your grandfather trusted me to make sure his wishes were honored. Derek violated that trust. I'm going to do everything I can to help you." My mentor teacher at school, Mrs. Patterson, heard what was happening. She'd met Grandpa a few times at school events. She said, "Your grandfather was a good man. He wouldn't want you to give up. Fight for what's yours." She helped me document everything. She stood as a character witness. She wrote a letter to the court explaining that I was a dedicated teacher with integrity, that I wasn't the person Derek was trying to paint me as. I also had my best friend, Riley. She'd known me since college. She'd met Grandpa. She knew the whole story. She said, "I'll come with you to the police station. I'll sit through every meeting. You're not doing this alone." I filed the police report on a Tuesday. Riley came with me. The detective, Officer Santos, listened to everything. He reviewed the documents. He looked at the forged power of attorney. He said, "This is fraud. We'll investigate." I also filed a civil lawsuit. Lisa Martinez drafted everything. We sued Derek for the full amount of the house sale plus damages. Derek sent me another text. "You're going to regret this." I blocked his number. My parents sent me a joint email. It said, "We're disappointed in you. You're choosing money over family. Don't expect us to be there for you after this." I deleted it without responding. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Officer Santos. He said, "We need you to come to the station. We're bringing your brother in for questioning." My heart started racing. I said, "When?" He said, "Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Can you be here?" I said, "I'll be there." I called Riley. She said, "I'm coming with you." I called Lisa Martinez. She said, "This is good. They wouldn't bring him in unless they had something." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything, about Grandpa, about the house, about Derek's lies, about whether this would actually work. The next day, Riley and I drove to the police station. Lisa met us there. We sat in a small conference room. Officer Santos came in. He said, "Your brother will be here in about 10 minutes. We're going to question both of you separately. Then we'll see where we are." I nodded. My hands were shaking. Riley squeezed my arm. She said, "You've got this." Derek arrived with his own lawyer. He didn't look at me. He walked past the conference room like I didn't exist. Officer Santos called me in first. I brought the original will. I brought Grandpa's letters. I brought the timeline I'd created showing every interaction with Derek. I brought the text messages. I brought everything. Officer Santos reviewed it all. He said, "Walk me through what happened." I told him everything. The funeral, the will reading, Derek offering to help, the documents I signed thinking they were transfer forms, the real estate agent at the house, the discovery that Derek had sold everything. Officer Santos said, "Did you ever give your brother power of attorney?" I said, "No, never." He said, "Did you ever agree to split the inheritance?" I said, "No. Grandpa left me the house. That was his decision." Officer Santos made notes. Then he said, "Wait here." He left. I sat there with Lisa. She said, "You did great. You were clear and calm. That's exactly what they needed to hear." 40 minutes later, Officer Santos came back. He said, "We have a problem with your brother's story." I leaned forward. He said, "He claims the power of attorney you signed was legitimate. He says you were emotionally unstable after your grandfather's death, and you asked him to handle the sale." I said, "That's a lie." Officer Santos said, "I know. We had a handwriting expert analyze the power of attorney document. It's a forgery. Your signature was copied from one of the transfer forms you did sign, but the document itself was created by your brother." My chest tightened. I said, "So what happens now?" Officer Santos said, "We're arresting him. Fraud, forgery, grand larceny. He's looking at felony charges." I felt tears in my eyes, not sad tears, relief tears. Officer Santos said, "There's one more thing. He spent the money, almost all of it. We're going to try to recover what we can, but it's going to take time." I nodded. I said, "I understand." Lisa said, "We'll pursue the civil case. We'll go after his assets, the car, the condo. We'll get you something back." I said, "Thank you." Officer Santos left. A few minutes later, I heard shouting in the hallway. Derek's voice, loud, angry. Then I heard another voice, my mom. She was there. She'd come to support Derek. I walked out of the conference room. My mom was standing near the front desk. She saw me, her face twisted. She said, "You did this. You're destroying your brother's life." I said, "He destroyed mine first." She said, "He made a mistake. You're sending him to jail over money." I said, "He committed fraud. He stole from me. This isn't about money. It's about what's right." My dad was there too. He said, "This is going to ruin our family." I said, "Derek ruined it when he forged my signature and sold my house." My mom started crying. She said, "How can you be so cold?" I looked at her. I said, "How can you defend him?" She didn't answer. Derek was led out in handcuffs. He glared at me. He said, "You're going to pay for this." I didn't respond. I just watched him go. Riley put her arm around me. She said, "Let's get out of here." We left. I sat in Riley's car. I couldn't speak. I just sat there shaking. Riley said, "You did the right thing." I said, "Then why do I feel so terrible?" She said, "Because it's hard. Because they're your family. But that doesn't mean you were wrong." I nodded. I believed her. The next few weeks were brutal. Derek was released on bail. The criminal case moved forward. The civil case moved forward. My parents stopped speaking to me entirely. My mom sent me one final email. It said, "You've chosen money over family. Don't contact us again." I didn't. Extended family took sides. Some people believed me. Most believed Derek, or they just didn't want to get involved. I felt alone, isolated, exhausted. But I also felt something else. Free. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to earn my family's approval. I wasn't making excuses for them. I wasn't protecting them. I was protecting myself. The civil case settled 4 months later. Derek was ordered to sell the Tesla and the condo. He had to start a payment plan for the remaining amount. The judge ordered him to pay me back over 10 years. It wasn't the full amount, but it was something. The criminal case took longer. Derek pled guilty to avoid trial. He got 2 years probation and community service. He also had a felony on his record. My parents blamed me for that too. But I didn't care anymore. I went no contact with them. I blocked their numbers. I blocked them on social media. I stopped going to family events. I rebuilt my life around people who actually showed up. Riley, Mrs. Patterson, Mr. Harrison, Lisa Martinez, Grandpa's old friends who reached out after hearing what happened. One of them, a man named Joe, told me stories about Grandpa I'd never heard. He said, "Your grandfather talked about you all the time. He was so proud of you. He'd be proud of what you did too, standing up for yourself." I cried when he said that. 2 years later, everything is different. I used the restitution money as a down payment on a house. It's smaller than Grandpa's house, but it's mine. I turned the spare bedroom into a woodworking space. I have Grandpa's tools. Derek had to return them as part of the settlement. I use them to build things, tables, shelves, small projects. It makes me feel close to Grandpa. I also started an after-school program at Lincoln Elementary. I teach kids woodworking. I teach them how to build things with their hands, just like Grandpa taught me. The kids love it, so do their parents. Derek completed his sentence. He tried to reach out last year. He sent me a letter. It said he was sorry, that he'd made mistakes, that he wanted to reconcile. I didn't respond. Maybe someday I will, but not now. Not when I'm finally at peace. My parents never apologized. They still think I'm the one who destroyed the family. I've accepted that. I can't change how they see me. I can only control how I see myself. And I see someone who stood up for what was right, someone who honored Grandpa's wishes, someone who refused to be stolen from and lied about. I see someone who chose herself. I still think about Grandpa every day. I think about the house, about what could have been, but I also think about what is. I have a home. I have a career I love. I have people who care about me. I have peace. That's more than I ever had with my family. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not bitter. I'm just free. And I think Grandpa would be proud of that. Your story deserves to be heard. Share it with us. Subscribe if you're building a chosen family too. Let's support each other. Tell me in the comments what boundary you wish you'd set sooner. I want to hear from you. Thank you for letting me share this with you. Your healing matters. I'll see you in the next one.